Welcome to my second eye-level podcast episode in English. Today with my good friend Nancy Boudrie. Nancy is a mindfulness-based corporate and motivational speaker. She's an energy therapy expert and she considers herself as a mindset coach. Welcome, Nancy. How are
Oh,
you?
thank you so much, Toby, for having me on. So just a little bit more expansion on what I do. I work with corporate professionals and businesses and schools to cultivate mindfulness using evidence-based tools and techniques. I help companies and individuals increase their morale, enhance their performance, retention, and overall well-being. I give companies and individuals the tools they need to manage their stress, especially in a time like today. Living mindfully and increasing focus and concentration are top of mind to everyone. And I help my clients to increase productivity, profitability, and peace of mind.
You said you want to strengthen the moral, for example, of a business.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, I believe diving into the mindful piece, we really, it's bringing their awareness. Well, there's quite a depth there. When we could go, that could go literally its own program because morals are everyone's own inner compass, right? But what I teach is how to follow your own inner compass. What feels right to you may feel different for someone else. And it's learning to live at peace in the midst of chaos. Are you at peace? Are you in alignment with yourself? And mindfulness is that in my coaching line of work is the primary vehicle I use to assist people in discovering their own sense of self, own self-awareness.
And so you spoke about an inner compass. And for example, I find my inner compass, but maybe it's not the compass of the company. How do you help me in this situation?
Well, that's where diving into my coaching program, we actually get into understanding how you're wired. The first thing before you can go externally, you have to figure out internally what's going on. So it could be a marriage, it could be a job you have. You have to first decide who you are. You have to self-discover, self-explore, self-discover, self-develop in order to self-evolve. So when we're talking about, let's say you're working in a job and the culture is different than you, it's really your self-awareness, as only one of you needs to be mindful. You can change the current or the ripple of that corporation just by your presence, I believe. And so once you become self-aware, you begin to, if you have to set healthy boundaries, let's say, or express yourself with mindful acceptance. Mindful acceptance doesn't mean you have to like it. You don't have to be reside yourself. It means you see it for what it is, and then you choose rationally and responsively how you want to show up in that situation. So I think everything begins with self-awareness.
You said the person can really truly see who he or she is.
Right.
Who are you?
So that's a loaded question, right? So who am I? Well, we all have various hats we wear, right? I'm the mother of 2 beautiful children. I am a wife. I am a business owner. I'm a woman who loves to hike. I love fine wine. I love friends. But I also love my stillness and quiet time. So that is, who I am, my authenticity, and I'm very connected to, in my world, my language for me is God, but it's source, right? Source feeds me. Source is what helps me stay in alignment with self.
How was your way to becoming a mindset coach? Why did you choose this profession?
So over 25 years ago, when I was an owner of a successful insurance agency with multiple locations, I was juggling and felt juggling so many things. I was overwhelmed, so many balls in the air, torn between what I thought I wanted in life, what was expected of me, who I thought I needed to be for everyone around me, and leaving me to feel very depleted and lost. Stressed to the max, I was trying to live what we call the American dream. Or was it really someone else's dream? So was I living a life by my own design, or was I living a life by default, what was taught to me as a child? This is what you want to strive for, right? And what I believe and what I teach is over time, because of that misalignment, my anxiety showed up in what we call, is called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. All my life, I was, battling this stomach issue, and it took it to a new level. I can remember not being able to catch my breath. Like all of a sudden, it went from digestive issues to, breathing issues, and I started having all kinds of other health issues. So my stress of being not in alignment with self was killing me. And so fast forward, I began my own exploration. The power of the mind. I started with Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. The list is endless. I couldn't get enough books. I read everything. And then I trained in Reiki. And Reiki was really the pinnacle part that really awakened the light within me, which is where I came up with the name Awaken with Light. So really opening up my business in my basement in 2006, because I knew I had something I really wanted to share with others. And I think the coup de grace was really meeting Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who then exposed me to MBSR, mindful-based stress reduction. And then I began to recognize how all the pieces fit together. You could be doing energy work all day long, but that can't sustain unless you change the mind.
And how did your environment and the people around you react to this change you did at this time?
Well, yeah, when I opened up my business, the reason why I even started to share with others is that people saw a positive impact. Many women in my social circle actually even thought I had a facelift or did some kind of cosmetic surgery to my face. And because the stress was just lifted, like I was literally glowing. And so that had a positive, but at the same time, I would be lying if I said that every aspect of myself was in a positive manner. So you talked about when you're not in alignment with the corporate values or something like that. When you do this kind of exploratory work and you stand in your light, and as I mentioned, I wasn't really living the life of my design. I was living a life of default. There was a lot of shakeup in my life. So went through a divorce, went through, one day I just realized I was not in alignment with who I authentically was and what my passion and purpose in life is. So I'm grateful for the shakeup. I would be lying if I said it was an easy road, but that's what I teach in my coaching. You can move through the fire and lead to a life filled with peace, which is where I am now.
So you say you moved through this fire to this shake-up.
Yeah.
What new principles for your life did you evolve through this move?
So when you're in alignment, I'll use, my own personal journey. When, every day I start my day saying, God, go before me, work through me. May I be a vessel of love, light, and healing energy to the world. I decided to step into the role of being a healer to all. Now, that doesn't mean I hang a shingle that says I can see your spirits behind you or who your guardian angels are. And that's beautiful stuff. But when I say I'm going to be a healer, I'm going to heal all aspects of humanity. I feel like one step at a time, you have, one person, one company, one. So you're living with principle, with purpose. So every day when I'm walking around on this earth, I'm living mindfully aware of what I'm feeling emotionally, what I'm thinking, how my body feels, because my body's telling me. And if I'm in a conversation with somebody, my body's speaking just as much as my mental and emotional state are speaking. And it's that self-awareness that keeps me in tune with being in alignment with my authentic self, my Sat Nam, the being, I want to live my life as a spiritual being in human form.
You spoke about God and also about spirituality. For a listener here who might not understand the difference between spirituality and religion and how this all interferes, can you explain that, how you see the world?
Well, I think religion, I am a Roman Catholic by religion. I practice what I want, I take what I want, and I leave the rest behind. I'm not an over-the-top religious person, but I believe I live with spiritual principle. So to me, you can be religious and not be spiritual. You can be spiritual and not religious. So I help people, one of my God-given gifts is helping people transition from this lifetime to the afterlife, death. I'm very, very comfortable with that because I feel that I'm going somewhere greater than this place. I've seen it in my meditations. I've felt it when I'm doing energy work on people that are in the process of dying. I've watched people die and ascend. And so that gives me validation that there is something greater than ourselves that we're attached to, or that we're part of, the breath that breathes us. But I wouldn't call that religious. I'd call that a spiritual practice.
And you already mentioned now your service you're doing for people who are dying. Why are you doing this service? How does it look like, and what does it give to you?
Back in like 2008, I discovered that I, had this gift of helping people transition. I think it's just, even as a little girl, I had an immense faith in something greater than myself. My parents were very open to allow me to speak of this, and they anchored it in and said, I grew up in a home that was, my mom was Southern Baptist and my dad was Roman Catholic, and my mom would have a different language than my dad. So she would say, you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm like, great, I've got a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So the language was very open about feeling the presence of Source, God. And so it never was uncomfortable to me that if I said my prayers or spoke directly as a friend would speak, in my head, that I would be heard. And that I could trust in this connection. So, as a little girl, I really started fostering it with not even really realizing what I was doing. And fast forward as an adult, after years of training my mind to be this way, if I was having a difficult moment and I called, on God, I could feel the presence. It would be like this cool sensation or this rush of energy or, chill bumps on my arm. And I developed this feeling and connection, and it's just supported me all my life. So it's like, in doing that, that's when I recognized I could help people experience that, because when people are dying, you know, they're gripping on to this life, and they have, you know, they can be given all these drugs and everything, but many times people are grimacing and in pain, even though they have lots of drugs, right? The reason being is they're scared of what's going on, what's going to happen, the uncertainty, right? So I discovered really early in my practice that I could help people, and there's no words. It's a mental telepathy. When somebody's transitioning, they're very connected in that world, and then I just help people relax into it, let go. And not everyone. I don't want to make it sound like everybody that I lay hands on they transition smoothly, but that's how I came to know that I had a gift for that. And again, and I got to help both my parents transition. So it was beautiful.
And can you give like a little insight? How does it look like if you help them transition?
So explain to me what you're asking.
So you're going, for example, in the hospital, and are you just there for them? Are you running energy?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Yes. So my primary connection is my Reiki energy, but I'm trained in many, many other modalities. But I would say Reiki is the one that is used in hospice, and we come in. People know when we enter the room, that's what we are. We are volunteers. We come in and we help using Reiki energy. And so I'm laying hands and helping their energetic soul transition.
You spoke about that people are scared in this last moments of your life. What are you scared of in your life?
I think as human beings, we all have fears there's three primal things that our cells want. They want to feel safe, they want to feel secure, and they want to feel loved. And I think throughout our life, we have many opportunities. Mindful awareness helps you tune in. I teach in my coaching program to tune in multiple times in a day. How do you feel? Where are you mentally, emotionally? What's going on? And so as human beings, we have fear. So I would be lying if I said I don't have fear. Fear of safety and security. I've lost everything that I had in life at times. But I recognize that that's a memorized emotion. If you pull up something out of fear that you won't have food to eat, you've memorized an emotion because of past experience, right? So mindful awareness gives you that ability to look at it. So I think my first reaction is to say I don't fear anything, right? Because I have tools in my toolbox. So when I see it, I look at it, I embrace it, I accept that it is here and now, and no emotion is permanent. What do I need? How do I care for myself? How can I make myself feel safe, secure, and loved? How can I establish my connection with God to feed me so that I don't feel scared, so that I don't feel fear?
Why?
Yeah.
In this context, you often speak about rewire and radiate.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you?
So in my program, I came up with that name of, again, taking all the things that I've been trained in. Reiki clears the mental and emotional trauma on a cellular level, but to sustain that, I believe I use the tool of mindfulness to help a person sustain that clearing. And what I've learned from all my studies in neuroscience with Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, and mindfulness, the brain is capable of rewiring. We have to bring awareness. We have to notice what we're noticing, and with no judgment, just curiosity, which is the hardest thing for a human being to do because they take everything so personally. And in doing that, you begin to train the mind. What is a memorized emotion? You see it for what it is. You notice that that emotion fuels your thought. That thought changes your perception or gives you a perception. That perception is not fact. So once you start looking and being able to live mindfully aware, and that's a very general, it's very deep. That's why, I work with people 6 months changing their wiring. We have to go in, we have to recognize it, we have to see it, and then we're choosing to, release it, replace it, repattern it, and rewire it. Right? So it's a very, but I explain it all from a neuroscience standpoint, and then there's tons of data that support me in saying that you can actually rewire the brain. So, and then the radiate is you're finally living a life where you see your old patterning, you see everything, and you're liberated because you go, oh, that's already healed. That's a memory I'm calling up. I can replace that. And that's the radiate piece.
You said choosing curiosity instead of judgment.
Yes.
What are you curious about?
I think what fuels me every day is human behavior. So every client, every dynamic you have in life, you are teacher and student in that dynamic. So I love every new client, every new person I come in contact, whether I'm at a dinner party, I am curious about their mind, their human behavior, how they show up.
And there was another thing, you spoke about the transition of people who are dying. What is about when new babies come into our world? They're also transitioning into it. How do you feel this phase of their life?
So I'll tell you a fun story. When my son was 4, we were doing story time before bed, and we were just laying, after we got done reading, we were just laying on his bed, looking up at the ceiling. And he said, Mom, I knew you long before I came into your belly. And I said, really? You want to tell me about this? And he goes, yeah, I was in a big holding tank with a bunch of blobs of light, and I picked you and Dad. And I went, okay, that's pretty deep. But a 4-year-old is out of the mouth of babes, right? He only knew the spiritual mom. I always helped him meditate and taught him his column of light when he was 2. And I believe children come in and they pick their parents from that exact story. And you pick your karma. You come here to heal karma. You pick a family that will support you in healing your karma. And this is a very lofty conversation, and some people don't agree with me. But again, this is, my belief. I don't say it's that, everybody should embrace it. So new babes, I think they're new in this lifetime, but their soul may be an old soul. Their soul could have come here many, many lifetimes. And I think as a parent, you live and allow that child to be explore and be aware, and try your best not to inhibit with your own fears or your own whatever. Allow that child to be like when he said that, I didn't even know about that. I remember I was sort of, that concept, but I'd never heard it. And I never said, oh, honey, that's a bunch of hogwash, or, oh, that's not true, or whatever. These are mouth of babes. So you want that child to be able to be, and say, and not be inhibited. And I think that's the greatest gift we can give to our children.
So yeah, I think that's also regarding to the title of this podcast. It's eye level podcast, and looking at children as they aren't listening instead of judging and being curious what they say, even though they tell you the story. And
Right.
it might be, oh shit, what's going on? And then,
Right.
okay, there might be something right about it. And if he feels it, he feels it. So
Right.
thank you for the story. You mentioned the column of light. What is that?
So what I teach in my practice, and again, there's all different ways of connecting to source, and this is the one that I find most effective for the mass of people, the different types of people I have, from people that come in with a spiritual practice and those that don't. The column of light is this image. I don't know if this will be, you'll be showing picture, but
Yeah.
so the column of light is your I am presence. So I believe above me is the I am, Christ consciousness, higher consciousness of all. And then above me is my higher consciousness. And then I'm in human form. So when I talk about being a spiritual being in human form, my desire is to live in alignment with my higher self. And what I have felt the easiest way to teach it is to teach people how to connect to their column of light. So in my program, that's what I teach, is connecting to the earth, connecting to the heavens, or the energy that keeps planets in alignment, whatever you want to call that. And you're in the center of it. You are part of something greater than yourself. And when you look into nature, you are no different than that nature scene. Nature flows effortlessly. We are no different. We are evolution just like nature. Like a change of seasons, we change, we evolve. So I think in the column of light, and awaken with light, teaching people that our divine being is filled with light. There's nothing we have to do to earn it. It is our divine right. It's who we are.
So how are mindfulness and this light, the source, related to each other?
So mindfulness, I mentioned, is that awareness piece. So it's teaching you to foster your connection to your higher self, which then in turn, you now are living more aware of when things are in alignment. I talked about how my digestive issue was messed up, how I had anxiety attacks. I believe all those are signs when we're not in alignment, we're in disharmony. So I teach people how to align with their divine or higher self and that connection. And so, and the wording may, I adapt it to whatever that person's belief system is, to a certain extent. You wouldn't want to work with me if you say these concepts you don't believe in, because I'm not going to get in a debate with anybody. There's a million coaches, they can choose whoever they want, but this is I believe, just like when there's plants growing outside and a beautiful rose, and you clip off the rose and you put them in a vase, what happens over time? They die. You clipped it from source. We have to stay connected to source in order to be vibrant, to have a high chi, to have high prana, vital life force energy. If you cut yourself off from that source, then you in essence die. You have no chi flowing. So I think the column of light is like plugging yourself in to that light, that light source illuminating you.
So you spoke a lot about mindfulness. Now, a person listening to this podcast might think, okay, how do I achieve mindfulness? How do I get into this state?
Yeah. Well, mindfulness is something taught. Mindfulness is not our natural state of being. And when I'm coaching, again, I tell people all the time, they're not broken because you didn't come wired mindfully. You came wired as a primal being. So, mindfulness is something that is you cultivate. And I in my coaching program, I explain to what mindfulness isn't, so that they understand the correlation, that the key is just living in your moments, not for your moments, being fully present here and now, and noticing when your mind ruminates on something of the past or worrying about something of the future. It's bringing yourself back to center. But these are our natural states. And then, again, explaining to them the neuroscience based on it so that they understand the concept. But again, it's something you have to cultivate. I call it building your mindful muscle. And but it can be done because you're changing the brain, you're changing the way you think.
Can you give an example of a technique or a skill how to build this mindful muscle?
The easiest way, I would say, in fact, is if we were going to do a little meditative piece, is a very simple exercise called open awareness meditation. If you like, we can, and that would probably be the easiest way to cultivate it. They could see how it feels if you'd like to drop into that and do that.
Yeah, I think Nancy, it would be great in the end of the podcast
Okay.
that we give it then, and then we could.
Sure. And it's probably best to explain it then, because then they're feeling and they are experiencing it. Because these are all concepts, and in my coaching program, I really want to apply it to their life. So I teach them how to actually take the concept and apply it to their life. Because again, it's not that simple and cut and dry that you go and, yes, you can read books on mindfulness. Absolutely. You can practice mindfulness. You can take a class in mindfulness. These are all wonderful, and educate and fill yourself with it. But at the end of the day, I really do think coaching is so helpful, because you can only get to a certain level of your evolution, and then a coach will help direct you and to dive deeper.
On your website, I found the following quote. In meditation class, I use this analogy. You're on a train platform in a subway station. You do not jump on a moving train. So why do we jump into a thought, feeling, or emotion as it passes by, then respond?
So what I teach is all emotions, all thoughts are passing by in that analogy, like the moving train. Or you could say, you could imagine yourself looking up at the clouds in the sky and the clouds moving by. You can't touch the sky. You don't want to jump in front of a moving train. That is emotional attachment. When we're emotionally attached, we become clouded. We can become clouded in our thinking and our rationale. We tend to react instead of respond. So that analogy I use a lot in my, those kind of things, so that people understand, oh, if I do this, this is how this is reaction. I'm teaching people to be the master of their mind, their body, not a victim to it. And so that's an analogy to show them how to distance themselves or detach. Now, there's a fine line between disassociation and detachment. I don't mean you're walking around like a zombie, but you're learning to literally not be enmeshed in the emotion, but witnessing it, observing it, so that you have the power to change it if you desire.
There's another quote from Rhonda Byrne. She says, our feelings fuel our thoughts.
Yep, I totally believe in that, because our feelings, our emotional current is driving every thought we think. And those thoughts create our perception of life. You understand your emotions. You see them for what they are. You embrace them. You don't judge them. You don't criticize them. But you hold the power to change that emotion. No emotion defines you. You are larger than any emotion you have. You are greater than any emotion. And you are greater than in the worst emotion that you've ever had. So once you look at yourself from that standpoint, you have the power to change that emotion that then influences every thought thereafter, that then changes your perception of life, which lines up how you will respond in life, which creates your life experiences. So it's very, very important to understand our emotions are driving the ship, not our intellect.
So you sound like a really coach by heart.
Yes.
What
Our
does
heart is our inner compass.
what does coaching mean to you?
Coaching to me, coaching, I evolved into the coach after my 15 years or so here doing it in public, because it's a passion to raise the vibration of this planet, to change. I would like every human being to live mindfully aware. I would love every human being to be mindfully aware. So what gets me up and gets me moving every day is making a difference in someone's life. Teaching them peace does not mean, there's a quote, I think, peace does not mean there is no noise or hard work or trouble. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. So teaching people like today, right now, where we've got a lot of uncertainty, we're living in an unprecedented time, a lot of stress, a lot of chaos. But how can I greet this with peace in my heart amidst chaos? And so if I can make and change one person's life in that manner, then I've done my job for the day. And that's what coaching means to me.
Thank you for this insight. How does love feel for you?
When I think of love, at this point and where I am in my spiritual journey, I love to say I love you to every client that I have. And it's fun to watch their face, because people are not used to strangers saying, I love you, Toby, right? They're like, whoa, wait a minute. You're not my wife. You're not my mom. It's crazy. And so when I think of love, I would go to a mindful, we call them metta, M-E-T-T-A, meditation that I use a lot in my private practice. And I send light, soul to soul, light to every living being. And I start with those that I love. Then I go to myself. Then I go to people that I'm neutral, that I have, that I just barely, I don't know, but I'm neutral to. And then those that I don't care for or that I've had conflict with. And it's simply, may you be safe. May you be free of suffering. May you feel happy and healthy. May you live with ease. May you be happy, safe, and fulfilled throughout your life. And when I think of love, that's what I think about. It's sending that kind of statement, soul to soul, light, to every living being, not just humans, but every living being, and encouraging and wanting them to feel safe, secure, and loved.
So what does this service you're giving to the world, to our living beings, what does it give to you? What does it make with you since you're doing that?
Oh gosh, when I teach my students in my Reiki classes, every time you give a healing, you receive a healing. So every time I open my heart to such profound unconditional love, I open myself up to receive unconditional love. And so in doing so, I feel energized. I feel fulfilled. And that is something just even in my private practice when I'm a little low or sad or having a pity party or feeling sorry for myself. One of my favorite things to do is this metta meditation. And as soon as I do that, gosh, it's like, whoa, I just feel like $1,000,000.
So your name is Nancy Gentle Boudrie. What does gentle mean to you?
Well, that was oddly enough, that was actually my maiden name and it's my birth name. Somebody asked me if that was a stage name. No, that's, and I would say that is who I am. It really, from a very early age. My mom was a very gentle soul. And we cultivated a sense of gentleness. And my dad was, feisty, and he was a World War II veteran. So he had feisty. He was a feisty character, but all in all, gentleness. And really, when I think about greeting any human being, I think that's the greatest gift we can, is just being gentle and kind and loving. And it's not always well received, but that's okay. Some people want to be crotchety.
Nancy,
but I'm blessed to have that as a maiden name.
I like it. What was the most formative moment in your life, Nancy?
I had a Reiki session in 2000 that really started me on this trajectory at this juncture of my life. And I would call that was my great awakening. And I remember that session. I didn't even know what Reiki was, and went and had it by my mentor and at the time. And it was like flipping a light switch on. I came back home that day and felt forever changed. It really opened up my eyes to, whoa, this is what vibration feels like on a cellular level. This is what light feels like on a cellular level. I'd never felt anything like that before. So I would say that was the most formative from a spiritual perspective. But of course, the birth of both of my children was a very formative to give life and bring life into this world is the greatest gift words cannot express.
What does this moment change when you bring life to the world?
Talk about the deepest, I'm going to get emotional, the deepest love you can have.
Thank you, Nancy, for so much vulnerability. That's very authentic.
It is. It's the greatest love you can have.
Maybe it's a good point with this feelings now that we go into a meditation together.
Perfect.
And, I would like to ask you, maybe you can also get the listener feeling of the column of light.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're ready, just feel free to start. And the meditation, and after that we will have some closing words.
So I think the best thing to do is, so the exercise I want to share is an open awareness meditation, which fosters a little taste of mindfulness. And I think what we'll do is, I'm trying to think of how to weave the column of light in that. When I'm teaching and my coaching, and people might not get it here, I don't know, because, but I guess we'll open up with the column of light and then roll into this mindful. But when I'm teaching it, I do definitely teach two separate type meditations. Because not that they can't be woven, but you're going to then figure out how to weave it into your own practice.
Okay, that's a good point. Feel free to do it like your heart tells to you.
Yes, exactly. Because at first, when you're trying to teach people mindfulness and being aware, and you'll see when we get in here, it's tuning into their body, it's tuning into their emotions. Sometimes when you weave the spiritual piece in there, it gets very emotional, it gets too much, because they're like, whoa, it's like a lot of things happen. So I tend to here teach you how to connect to your emotions, your thoughts, your bodily sensations, and then how to connect to your spirit. But, over time, you're going to weave the two. But so enter this meditation with a bit caution. So if you get emotional and all that. So we'll just begin by settling in and notice how it feels just right here, right now. Don't change anything, just notice what you're noticing. Notice your buttocks in the chair. Notice the sounds around you. And remember, the mind is designed to think. When you go in here, you're not trying to suppress thought. You're simply allowing those thoughts to be and to pass through and by, like passing clouds, that moving train. And gently note if a thought or a noise or an emotion grabs you. You hold the power. Nothing is permanent, and you can detach. Not going to think about that right now. And bring yourself back to the flow of your breath, this present moment awareness. When you notice the mind has wandered, that's even an exercise in mindfulness. And you just feel the breath and allow it to flow just as it is. Not trying to change it. And we'll anchor into our column of light. Feel your feet. You have a sock, or you might feel the sock on your foot, or the shoe on your foot. And then feel your foot firmly planted on the floor. And then imagine drawing up Mother Earth energy, like almost as though you have roots on the base of your feet. Imagine those roots going deep into Mother Earth, attaching to the core of Mother Earth and drawing up her energy, up through the legs, hips, many times I like to chant to myself, I bring in the light, I bring in the light, I bring in the light. Allow that energy to come up and out the top of the head, filling your energy field and aura. And I shift my awareness, and I imagine drawing the energy of the cosmos, the energy all around me. I like to imagine basking in the light of the North Star. You may like moon energy or the sun, or just collecting all this beautiful energy, like you have an antenna coming out the top of your head. And you invite it down to fill every fiber and cell of your being. Encourage yourself to be open to receive and allow this flow. And to feel yourself being filled up like a pitcher of water. As is above is below, and you are one with all that is. I am a child of the light. I live in the light. I love the light. I serve the light. And just gently note how you feel in this present moment. I'm going to stay silent for a moment and just notice. And breathe. Just notice the world around you, the sounds. Taking it all in, but attached to nothing. Allow those sounds just to register as they are. And you don't have to purposely identify anything. Just listen. Now move your attention to the sensations within your body. And you don't need to find pleasure or unpleasantness or a strong sensation. Just whatever sensations you notice in the body. When you're ready, see if you can feel the sensations in your body as a whole, in its entirety. And when you're ready, shift your attention to your emotions now, if that's okay with you. Become aware of how you're feeling right now. Does the feeling stay the same, or does it change from one breath to the next? And can you notice where the emotions rest in your body? And finally, become aware of your thoughts. What thoughts are arising in the mind in this present moment? What are you thinking? Just notice those thoughts passing by. No judgment, just observation, like clouds that float across the sky. And if you get caught up in a train of thought, that's okay. Just step back again when you can. And now let go of focusing your attention on anything in particular. Just notice whatever is predominant in your awareness without making any choices. We call it choiceless awareness. It may be the sounds, thoughts, their bodily sensations. Just step back and observe your moment-by-moment experience. And remember, you don't need to do this perfectly. Whatever happens is absolutely fine. And we'll stay silent for a good little bit here. As we bring this exercise to a close, take a couple of nice, deep breaths. Feel your presence back in your body, back in your room, and then set the intention that in a few moments, when prompted, we're going to open the eyes and imagine seeing the room by which you sit as though you're seeing it for the first time. Because in essence, you are as this moment has never been lived. We call it beginner's mind, giving yourself the opportunity to see life from a fresh lens. And then when you're ready, open the eyes, choose a focal point, and expand your vision from there. Taking it all in, but attached to nothing, and inviting to see it for the first time.
Thank you, Nancy. That was beautiful. I couldn't imagine that when we first met and you told me via Zoom, is this possible? And it's sometimes it's so powerful via Zoom. It doesn't matter if you're in the same room, energy finds its way. So thank you for this experience. You spoke about the beginner's mind. How often are you in your beginner's mind today?
Let's see, I've done about 4 different meditations before noon. So I think beginner's mind, it doesn't have to be long. You know, it's just dropping in and changing the lens by which you see. So you're choosing to change the lens. If you get caught in a thought, or you get stuck in an emotion, or a feeling of overwhelm or anxiety, whatever it may be, you hold the power to connect, drop in, and change the lens by which you see. And that's beginner's mind, changing that lens.
So yes, after every meditation, I feel very calm and in ease. Thank you for this experience. I would like to give the last words to the listeners to you.
I think I'll just close by, may you be safe and free of suffering. May you feel happy and healthy. May you live with ease, happy, safe, fulfilled. My spirit bows and honors this moment shared with you. Namaste.